let's talk about giftedness. A gifted individual, or as it's now recognized today, high potential individual, is someone with an IQ above average. Most people know at least one people from where they were in primary school, or high school, or college, or even university, or even maybe in their family or their friends. That straight A student who always was bored in class, never studied, and somehow always got the perfect mark. Yes, that person. Gifted individuals, high potential individuals, high IQ people, zebras as we call ourselves. That's all the same thing. But recently, we've started gaining more and more attention from the psychological, psychiatrical, and medical communities. Why? Well, people have started realizing, it's not just about the IQ. It's also about our brains. Something that you may not know about me, I actually am one of those people. A high potential individual. I got my IQ tested first time when I was 12. The psychologist, the therapist who tested me, it told me I had an IQ of 146 on the paper, but likely higher, considering I was 12 and took an adult test and also skipped a lot of questions. So my exact IQ is unknown. I always just say above 150 because that's what I was told. But if you want the number I was tested at when I was 12, I was at 146. Now, you may think like, either stop bragging about it, like, yeah, sure, you're cool, you're intelligent, all that. Either that or, wow, that's so cool, your life must be so easy, so fun. Alright, now it's time for the serious part. No, it's not all easy. It's not all fun. Most people, like me, fall into either two categories. Not most, all HP individuals fall into two categories. Complex HP and complete HP. Like a majority of HPIs, actually HPI stands for high potential for intellect, and there's also high potential for emotional, and this is where it comes in with the complex and complete. Complete is high potential intellectually and emotionally. The wiring in the brain is extremely interconnected, not only on the regions that regulate information intake and memory and understanding and all that, but also on the parts that control like emotional control and empathy and all that. Those are very rare. They're complete HPs. I am a complex HP, meaning I have high potential intellectually, but emotionally not at all. That's one of the things. When you're in HP, most likely you will be lacking in emotional intelligence. One way to describe it is just make a test. Pinch yourself. Pinches a little, hurts a little, yeah. Now imagine that sensation emotionally. You say hi to someone and they don't respond. Okay, it's equivalent to a pinch. For someone like me, with what we call emotional hypersensitivity, it feels like someone taking a knife and scraping the flesh off of the arm instead of a pinch. That's pretty much how I always describe it. Now, what else? Like, okay, you have very, very intense emotions. You have trouble controlling, understanding emotions. For some people, it's like empathy is non-existent, and they try to just be emotionless. Some, in my case, just have a hard time understanding those emotions and controlling the influx and like how intense everything is, because something that comes also sometimes, in my case it does, sensory hypersensitivity, sorry I can talk, where basically self-explanatory, your senses are heightened. It also comes with emotional hypersensitivity in my case, and both of them are pretty hard to manage. But what else? All right, what else? Well, you may know from people, if you've met them, that they can seem either a bit recluse, just stuck in their shell. Well, that's cool. Sorry. Some of them may even like do a 180 and become a totally different person. That's called a mask. Most high potential individuals have a hard time socializing due to the lack of emotional control, too much empathy, and heightened sensations and emotions. But they also may be subject to things like rejection, bullying, neglect, or exploitation from either teachers or friends or parents or anyone, actually. So what they do to get accepted and treated like everyone else, something I actually did, dumb yourself down and pretend to be normal. Yeah. So if you know like that nerd who suddenly became like their grades dropped dramatically and they're just like an average student and they're suddenly so popular, yeah, they're probably just like wearing a beautiful mask of a normal person and trying to understand what's going on. Some things to understand also is we have a hard time with medication. A lot of things that come with being HP, a different wiring in the brain, is also different mental abilities. A lot of us are on the spectrum. A lot of us have chronic mental illnesses. A lot of us are subject to depression, most of us actually. I myself have a very, 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 very strong ADHD. Yeah, ADHD. That's something you see thrown around every day nowadays. Yeah. So the thing, logically, if your child is in the autism spectrum or has severe ADHD or OCD or any other kind of illness or defect, so to speak, you give them medication. That medication is never gonna work. And you know why? Because it's made for people with normal brains, in a way. Like I mentioned, when you're HB, your brain is wired in a different way and connections happen in places and between neurons and parts of the brain that don't occur in the neurotypical brain. And so medications, in my case, medications for ADHD give me psychosis, which is not fun, I can tell you. And a lot of people like me have been taking medication since they were children. Because you're always distracted, always daydreaming, always just zoned out, you have trouble concentrating, you're always moving around, you have all these tics and all that, and So pop a pill and be normal. Well, yeah, we cannot be normal. And honestly, I'm making this video right now because I feel like now is one of the best times. We're starting to recognize that zebras, which is basically the name we give ourselves, are actually not all that happy, you know? Like geniuses and high potential individuals and all that, we're not all happy. A lot of us have been bullied, a lot of us have been exploited by our parents, a lot of us have been through a lot of abuse, have suffered from depression multiple times. I have had 4 depressions actually. A lot of us have attempted suicide, and a lot of us are basically constantly in pain. Intelligence is pain, you know? The saying, ignorance is bliss? Well, it becomes true in that case. You start to realize that being so intelligent is not all sunshine and rainbows. It's complicated and it comes with its own set of issues. And there's not really any medication because it's seen as an advancement, you know? People don't assume you need medication for stuff like that. And honestly, you don't. But they also don't think like, oh, you're intelligent, that's all there is to it. So if you're on the autism spectrum, if you have ADHD, we're just gonna give you regular medication, and they don't think, hey, that may not work because of how their brain is wired. And yeah, that's pretty much the problem. I'm not saying we should all start making medication for people with high potentials like that, because it wouldn't work. Like, even us, we all have like different capacities and our brains react in different ways, and we have all sorts of conditions that pile up on top of each other that make it virtually impossible to develop one medication that will universally fit all HP individuals. Say you develop a medication for ADHD, based on basically how the brain interacts with it and with different parts of itself, designed especially for HP individuals. Well, for some, it will work because those 2 parts interact frequently, and the medication was designed for that, so it wouldn't counteract, so to speak. But for a big majority, those parts may not interact, or will interact way more or way less, and it will just mess with their brain, you know? And that's why it's virtually impossible to design a medication that fits everyone. But honestly, it's not all bad either, being HP. You have some sort of ease in learning, you have a vast environment, a lot of potential interests. I actually have very diversified interests that come from anything from guitars to art to philosophy to even quantum mechanics and theoretical science. Like, it's so diverse. I could be interested in languages and mechanics. I could be interested in, history, and simultaneously be interested in, food. Anything can be an interest, and anything can be learned and mastered in a matter of minutes sometimes, depending on how interested you are in it, how invested you are in it, and how easy it is for you to learn. Because yes, don't be mistaken, not all HPs learn at the same rate. Just because we're super intelligent, quote unquote, doesn't mean we all have the same ease at learning. Like, for me, I love languages. I'm passionate about languages, their roots, and how it's applied and all that. But I have a hard time learning any language. It's simply because for me to learn language, I need to be in immersion. So if you put me in a classroom, in a Spanish classroom, where the teacher speaks in English or in French and just tells us like how it is and the basis of Spanish, I may learn the basis, I may remember them, but I'll have a hard time. However, if you put me in a classroom in a school that's only in Spanish and I don't have any other languages to refer to, I'll be forced to think in that language, and basically the learning will be automatic, very easy, you know? That's not the same for everyone. That's just an example I'm giving. I think it's important, especially nowadays when stuff like the autism spectrum or gender dysphoria has more coverage, has more visibility, and is talked about more, to talk about being HP. Because for years and years and decades even, we've thought, oh, they're just geniuses, they must have it easy, you know? It's probably just like freeloading and not doing any efforts, but it's not. It's really not. A lot of people with high IQs end up committing suicide or falling into addiction or homeless or like me dropping out of school. It's really not easy. And I think it's important to bring awareness to how messed up it can be, you know? Because, well, not everyone knows that. Few people know that. And even though people have started thinking about it more and making more research about it and realizing stuff they didn't know, it's still very, very, very few. We're zebras, which is to say, we're very extreme. We're black and white. One day we may be just the shy nerd as usual, and the other day we decide we've had enough and we become like the dumb kid who's super popular and super athletic and all that in a snap. People assume like we're super at ease and we have it all easy and it's super fun to learn and we don't struggle with learning anything. But the reality is, again, I'll give an example of myself. I struggled a lot with geography, history, and technology. So just because I'm super intelligent doesn't mean I have superpowers. I don't have all the answers and I have trouble learning some things too, like everyone else. And that's why we call ourselves zebras. Most people only see the white part of the zebra. How cool it must be. How easy everything must be. How it's fun to be super smart and stuff. But only we see the black lines, the depression, the struggles, the most likely abuse, the bullying, the inner struggles with coming to terms with how we are and why we are this way. It's a very good image of how it is. I'm not saying that to just, put another sub story on YouTube. That's not my. What I want in the possible near future, if it's possible, actually, I want more people to be aware of what's going on. I want more people to know what those straight A students are most likely going through. I want people to know that that shy nerd who never studies and who's just recluse in the back of the class is not just a nerd. This nerd is going through a lot with probably bullying, with probably exploitation at home, or high expectations that they can't deal with, and their own identity crisis because, well, why am I this much of a wreck? Like, why am I so emotional all the time? Why am I so sad all the time? Why do I have so much ease learning, but I don't find any pleasure in it, And if I'm so smart, why do I have difficulty learning this or that, It's an inner struggle as much as it is an outer struggle. I want more people to know about it. That's pretty much what I want. I want people to know that we exist. We exist, we have existed for a long time, but we are not what you think we are. We're not just nerds, we're not just gifted, we're people with a lot of struggles, with a near incapacity to take a lot of medications because they don't do well on us. They go against the natural electric flow of our brain. They can cause side effects. They can cause a lot of damage, sometimes permanent damage in some cases. And just bring awareness to everyone. I want the medical community to study the effects of being gifted and how the brain works in those situations. I want people to encourage each other and just talk about it, Stop rejecting the nerd in the classroom. Just accept them and understand that they may be going through a lot. I want the world to know that no, it's not easy. It never was, and it probably never will be. But if people are more aware of our struggles, in the next few years, it may become easier. In the next few decades, my generation, which is very well known for being pretty open-minded and open to new ideas, may project that and help us HBs get more visibility and, visibility. Visibility as in not just show us as nerds, but show us as people with struggles and showcase what those struggles really are. That's what I mean by visibility. And I hope that maybe with my generation and maybe older generations also, if they're open to that, the next generation of gifted kids will have it easier. We already made progress. There are schools for gifted kids where they have different curriculums and children can learn at their own speed. They can learn at their own pace. They learn diversified subjects. They have time to explore their artistic passions, their technical passions, their linguistic passions, every sort of culinary passions, everything. It's very, very heartwarming to know that the next generations will have access to those kind of schools. But there are only a handful, and it's pretty hard and expensive to get into them. Ultimately, I just hope that, even though this is just a very long and maybe boring video, maybe it can help or bring change, you know? Maybe only out of the handful of people who will watch this, maybe one or two will just have a different view on this. And maybe that person will go up to that lonely kid in the back of the class and just say, "Hi, how are you doing?" This may not be much. I can't do a lot more, but I know that by sharing what I know and my experience and showing others that, well, what it's like to be like me, and there are other people like me out there, maybe it will bring about some kind of change. I don't know. Maybe it will just fall into oblivion and nobody will see this. But maybe, just maybe, there's a possibility that maybe, I don't know, 100 people will see this, and out of those 100, maybe someone who can make a real difference will do it, you know? I think I've rambled on long enough. So I'm just gonna leave it at this. Please, you don't even have to, like and share and all that. Just talk about it, I don't care if this video is just seen by a handful. I'm not even asking you to share this video and spread it right. I'm not asking you to do that. You can do it if you want, but that's not what I want. I just want you to, when you click off, just take a break. Think about it. Maybe talk about it with someone, a parent, a friend, a teacher, anyone. Maybe even your doctor, And do some research maybe. What are the advances on HPs and how does that brain work in general? And just, be a bit more informed. And probably in the next few years, in the next decade, people will gain more interest in this. And that's probably how change will occur. So thank you for watching this, for listening to me ramble on for half an hour. And just thank you in general. Have a good day.